In this video, I want to talk about how to buy property as fast as possible with no money to your name. My name is Alfred Dzadey and I have built a £4 million portfolio within 3 years. So in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can get started to be able to buy property as fast as possible. When I got into property, I got clear what do I want from property. And for me, it's very simple. I wanted ownership and I wanted high cash flow. These are the two things that I was looking for from an investment strategy. And the strategy that provided me that outcome was BRR HMO. So this is buy, refurbish, refinance houses of multiple occupants. In essence, a house share, a property where people share the entire house. This is me taking a 3-bedroom house and converting to a 6-bedroom or 7 or 8-bedroom property and renting out to either young professionals or students. That was my go-to strategy. And obviously the biggest headache for a lot of people kind of getting into property is, hey, how can I get into property? I have no money. Like, what can I do to get started? And unfortunately, there's a lot of marketing out at the moment to kind of like dangle this low-hanging fruit in front of you in terms of like how you can get started in property with no money down, in the sense of like, hey, come and do the strategy which requires very little money of your money or very little of other people's money to get started, i.e. the rent-to-rent stuff, the deal sourcing. And these are all like great things, but again, like for people that obviously have no money, this is kind of, I guess, the first thing you look at. They see it as very accessible, as in there's very little capital required from your pocket to be able to get into these deals, versus something like what I did, you require a minimum of £100,000 to kind of get into it, which is kind of can seem very steep if you've never even seen that level of money before. Like, forget even 100 grand, let alone 10, 15 grand, whatever the number is. The point is, if people are obviously being shown that as an opportunity to be able to get started and start seeing some money, there's this false perception of like, hey, you can start off with this as a starting point to allow you to build that capital required to start doing the deal. But actually, when you start doing the numbers behind, actually, what does it mean to get started in, like, say, deal sourcing to allow you to start building the capital? For lots of people that are looking to do deal sourcing, unfortunately, they're doing a full-time job, which means that they're not having the time to be able to put 100% of their energy into deal sourcing, and so aren't going to see the results that people maybe have seen who are doing deal sourcing as a full-time career job. Like, for me personally, if you want to get results in deal sourcing, my honest opinion is you've got to be in it full-time. Like, you've got to eat, live, breathe this stuff. You trying to have a full-time 9-to-5 job alongside trying to do deal sourcing and hoping to make 10 grand a month, for me, is just lying to yourself. I'm sorry. It's going to be very hard to attain. You might be great assistance processes maybe, but to yield the results where you're churning in 2, 3, 4, 5 deals a month, for me, that's an operation. That's you focused on one thing only, rather than trying to have diluted efforts doing a working career plus this deal sourcing career as well. Same with the rent-to-rents. Like, these are just like another job. So it's like, for me, you got to go in on like one or the other. Like, you either have a full-time job or you do rent-to-rent on its own, or you do deal sourcing on its own. And again, with rent-to-rent, like, especially when I'm doing the service accommodation model, like, I think from the end, that only makes sense if you're going to go and scale that to a 10, 15 unit portfolio, because again, if not, you create another job. You probably went into property looking to gain some financial freedom, or even to build the capital to be able to start buying property, and again, all you've done is going to create another job. So for me, these vehicles that people are kind of being, were pointed to, I personally didn't go down that route. I just believe that these vehicles didn't make sense. I just felt like I was going to another job again, which in essence they are. People might be in denial about that, but like, you could find out sooner or later. I've spoken to enough people to have enough data to have this conviction around. I'm not even necessarily them telling me, but like, I saw it for myself before they told me their experiences of doing such things, right? I've met a lot of people who have gone and done deal sourcing, didn't work out, just couldn't put the energy into it, and actually then said, you know what, that isn't for me. Drop that. Rent-to-rent, similar thing. When spent 2 years doing all of that, didn't really amount to anything. They could have just carry on their career and potentially even see more money in their career. They just focus on that. So all these things come into play, right? It's not, oh, this vehicle is going to help me get started in property. I just don't believe that. Like I said, I've seen enough data to support as to why these two things or these similar vehicles aren't necessarily going to get you to your outcome. And don't get me wrong, they can. And in this video, I want to be clear, right? They can, for the person that is focused on this one thing and doubling down on this and doing this as a full-time thing. Yes, of course, you can go and achieve that. The reality is, obviously, this is again working, right? And my big belief, like, of being able to raise capital, like, is faster than trying to earn it. Like, you can raise £100,000 faster than you can try and earn it or even save it from your career, from your rent-to-rent, from your dual sourcing business. So for me, it's like, why have another job to try and gain the money to start buying when I can just go to an investor, assume that you know what you're doing, assume that you can provide value to an investor and raise that money on day one to get into a deal day one. Like the person who went and raised money on day one to start buying assets, let's say we had two different people. One person went down the deal sourcing route or rent-to-rent route. One went down the raising finance route of raising money on day one. Person who went the deal sourcing and rent-to-rent route might take 2 years to be able to get their first capital, to be able to buy their first property, right? The person who's raised money on day one, started at the same time as the person that did deal sourcing, would have bought multiple properties within that same time frame. Within that time frame, those properties are likely to appreciate, have added value to, provide an income to them as well over that same time horizon. So who would you rather be? The person who's got an asset base where they've got equity in it? I mean, that's tangible, that's wealth to me. Also income from that portfolio, or someone that's just trying to have this, in essence, another job, trying to build the capital required to start buying, and actually realizing that this is just another job. I'm not really feeling financial freedom that I came into property for, or the wealth that I wanted to create from property. I'm not really seeing that. Like, I really feel like I'm just another slave, just trying to slave away and try and really build this capital from this property portfolio. You're really trying to build this capital from a deal sourcing business or a rent-to-rent business, and it's just taking forever and things aren't going your way. So for me personally, what I did is I was this person on the right, where I went on day one and I raised the money because I knew that was faster. I knew that if I can get educated, I knew the process, I can raise money, allocate these property deals, get started today and be far further ahead than if I were to go down this route of trying to earn my way there. Like, for me, obviously it's a route. It is, again, like I said, I'm not trying to dismiss that it's not a route. It is a route, but for most people, that could be a fight. I know some people that have done rent-to-rent and still haven't, I mean, it just didn't work out. They just wasn't able to amass the money they thought they could make from a rent-to-rent, saving up to be able to start buying, and realize they've wasted 2-3 years of their time to now start looking at, okay, how can I raise money to then start buying, and realizing, fuck, I wish I knew that, because I would have just seen much success. I would have had multiple properties to my name by that time. So, like, for me, it's clear what's the faster route. If you're trying to gain access to buying property, you can raise money faster than you can ever try and earn it or save it. So you've got to learn how to become valuable. You've got to learn how to attract investors who want to work with us. So whether it's even a joint venture partnership, whereby you're bringing them as a financial partner in, you're doing all the work, and you've got the time to build a portfolio, you're far better off than doing this thing over here and would have a better asset portfolio, all of that, versus doing deal sourcing or rent-to-rent or whatever other lesser strategy there is. It's just a slow way of doing things, rather than here, if you were to go and raise money, you'd get into it a lot faster. And again, what I wanted to caveat here is, like, raising money from investors is not easy. If it was, trust me, everyone would be doing it, and everyone wouldn't even look like deal sourcing and rent-to-rent, obviously. But it's a skill that can be acquired. I have done it myself. I've taught others to be able to do so, to be able to get money from an investor, to be able to go and build a portfolio for themselves. People have gone on to build amazing brands even off the back of that, and gone on to do amazingly well in terms of ownership of properties, cash flow from properties. So it does work. It's just, are you willing to go down that route and explore raising capital from individuals? Doesn't matter if you've got experience, doesn't matter this is your first time doing this. You've got to get knowledgeable. Obviously that is a prerequisite. You have to get knowledgeable. That is at least the minimum you need to be able to access capital, because guess what, if you're knowledgeable, you have the time, you are valuable to someone that has money as a worst case scenario. And obviously, if you're in a better position where you can leverage other people's capital, you raise the money from them on a loan note, whatever, to be able to provide a better return on their money, again, you are valuable to that individual. So that is what I did, and that is what allowed me to put a £4 million portfolio. There is no secret to how I was able to do that so quickly. I just simply raised money. If I was to try and save my way or earn my way there, to build the same £4 million portfolio, I've taken my whole lifetime, I might not even achieve that in my whole lifetime, because it just takes so long to save the level of money required to do one single BRIH deal. So I hope that kind of gives you some insight of like how you can go about buying property fast. For me, I would rather be on the bottom of the right ladder, i.e. having the outcome that I want, versus trying to like get started and be at the top of the ladder, but actually not going where I want to go. So for me, it's clear and simple. Like, if you want to have the outcome, you have that financial freedom, have that property portfolio where you've got asset, where you own it, you have control, you've got to look at ownership. And hence why for me, I'd rather have a slower start on the ownership ladder than try and have a quick win on a ladder that is, I don't know what to call this ladder, a cash flow ladder where people perceive they can make some money and therefore start to actually own and create wealth. So for me, it's very clear where you need to sit. So to summarize, if you want to get to owning assets quickly, you've got to look at raising capital, because that is the fastest route to be able to own an asset. If you haven't got the money or can't save it quick enough, then raising money from other people by providing value is your fastest route. If you're interested in obviously working with myself or my team, there's a link in the description for you to access myself to see if you're a good fit, to be able to help you with this. If not, that's also fine. I shall see you on the next video. Take care.